All right. As we looked at this, our last week of poetry class, the teachers decided that we wanted to share the facilitation, and that Sophia Saeed, who is my predecessor at the Interfaith Center and who has taught many classes with Jay. Jay and Sophia taught a class on Rumi and Hafiz last fall. And we thought she has now got to travel with her mom, who is having a difficult time traveling by herself to Mecca. And so she is there on a holy pilgrimage, and we're so excited for her. We wanted to honor her. So on this day's classes, we all picked poetry from the Sufi tradition and in honor of Sophia. And Jay's going to start us off.
Go ahead and put mine up then. Mine is not really a poem in any official sense, and it's by a man named Ibn al-Arabi, who is a very famous Muslim philosopher, 13th century. And this is simply a passage from one of his writings, and let this be my poem for us. My heart has opened unto every form. It is a pasture for gazelles, a cloister for Christian monks, a temple for idols, the Kaaba of the pilgrim, the tablets of the Torah, and the book of the Quran. Love is my religion. In whatever directions its caravans lead, I follow. And I think you can give us the gallery view now. So it's really the images that I so appreciate. My heart is open unto every form. It is a pasture for gazelles, a cloister for Christian monks, the Torah of the Jew, the Kaaba, that's the black rock in Mecca, of the pilgrim, the book of the Quran. Love is my religion. In whatsoever directions its caravans lead, I follow. And what I appreciate about that is the image of wideness, W-I-D-E-N-E-S-S, the wide heart that can include within its own horizons things that other people or other traditions may consider blasphemous or unacceptable. And so if you're a Muslim, to say that your heart includes the Torah of the Jew, and it's a cloister for Christian monks and the gods of the pagans, that can be an unpopular thing to feel and say. I like the fact that it includes gazelles. It includes the more than human world. And even though it can be a little bit of a cliche, I think if we're going to choose a religion, love's not a bad one. It's okay. There are worse religions. And then the notion that we follow the leadings of love, that in whatsoever directions its caravans lead, I follow. That's a kind of openness to the spirit that is beyond pre-programmed formulas. So that's the poem that I share, and it's really just the images. Do those images raise any thoughts on your part, or anything you'd like to say? And let me just say one more thing. in our time, that aspiration for that wider heart can seem very naive and very much impossible. So I don't want to present that it's an image easily incorporated. It's an aspirational ideal that people can approximate if they so desire relative to the circumstances of their lives. All right, that's it for me. How about for you? What's your favorite image in there? Or what is among one of your favorites?
I love the pasture of the gazelles.
Yeah. Me too. Jules.
I love being a religion, and so to see it in there was nice. I recently heard that if love is my religion, then nature is my church. And I thought, man, that really just brings it all together, right? And so within that, with all the different ideas coming together, the one word and thought that kept coming through for me was safety. With that, within the expansiveness of your heart that can hold all of that, no matter how big the ideal is, for our mind, that oneness within that is safety. Thank you.
I hope so, Jules. I know that what frightens people about that kind of openness is that they fear it will make them unsafe. And so that it can include safety, I think, is a really nice thing to say. Nita.
I was thinking about a friend who, when it comes to all the controversial things and contradictions of different religions and social fabric things, says, I just choose to err on the side of love.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful. Just if you're, if we celebrate all of these differences and look at all these different paths as our teachers, which I think this speaks to, we may be judged. It may be conflicting, but err on the side of love is important.
There are worse ways to err. Anybody else? Anybody else?
There's a great note in the chat that from Jennifer that said, I read this poem as from the voice of God.
Sherry?
Someone told me that when there are the presence of deer, it's safe because the deer is such a sensitive creature that it perceives and reacts to danger. And so I'm thinking that the gazelle is very much like a deer. And so the fact that in the poem, the gazelle is in the pasture, to me, indicates that everything is fine. We have safety. And as you said, Jay, the idea that to embrace or at least be open to other religions or faiths may be threatening is not brought forward in this poem. This poem is saying something quite different, and I feel that the presence of the gazelle indicates that actually it's okay. You can be safe, and there is no threat. So that was my takeaway from that.
Thank you, Sherry. Kathleen. Unmute, please.
Before I say what I was going to say, I just want to say how much I love Sherry's comment about the gazelle. It just seems, and that's the first one. I really love that. what I was going to say, it's interesting to me that it begins with the heart, and then you have these places or things like a book, tablets, but then these sort of architectural, these sort of places, these sites. But at the end, it's a journey. You know, it all comes together. Love is a journey. That kind of, you know, you can move through all these things.
I want to ask, as we go to the next poem, I want to leave us with a question that I've wrestled with most of my life. And it's the question, how to have roots and wings.
Yeah.
And there's an impulse within my heart and everybody's heart to have a sense of identity, a sense of belonging, a sense of being with a group. And it can't just be infinite. It can't just be everything. It has to be these people, this group. It's a sense of family. And it's not unrelated to a desire to be part of a tribe. But it provides identity, security, concreteness. It's to have roots in a tradition and be nourished by the concreteness and these rituals, this book. And so how to have that and at the same time be wide open, like this poem, with such wings that nothing's left out, actually. All is included. So this poem does leave me with a question. Ibn al-Arabi was a classical Muslim. If you'd gone to him and said, "Oh, you've left Islam," he would really disagree. And for that matter, Sophia Said is a Muslim, and she would disagree. Her roots give her wings. Her roots give her wings. And so I think, to me, this poem is beautiful and also a challenge in a good way. How to have roots and wings. A bonded community and wide open, a spacious heart. All right. But if you can answer that question for me, remember I told you it'd take me a lifetime, but you can shorten that if you'd like to. Just send me a note.
I'd like to reply to your question because I'm doing the next poem from your former self, Jay. I think I've told Jay this story, but I don't know if I've told this class this story. When I was 30 years old, I'm 56 now, so this was a few decades back. I was a young, not sure Christian doing sitting meditation with a bunch of Buddhists, including, Christians practicing Buddhism, Buddhists including Jay, at an Episcopal church in Conway, Arkansas. And I remember coming up to Jay after class and saying, I don't know what to do. I am pulled back to the Christian story, but I also love all these faiths. And I remember your hands, Jay, saying, "Oh, Patricia, your roots are your stories that you grew up with. They're the ones that are deep in you, and you can never escape that. But then the tree can be a place where birds nest and build their nest and fruit grows and different things can come and eat from that fruit." And I've carried that image for 26 years from you, Jay. So I will let yourself from 26 years ago respond to your...
Thank you.
But it's allowed me to be an Episcopal priest and an interfaith director. So that was pivotal. Okay, in that light, my poem actually has a similar theme. Again, it's so hard to pick. For those of you who aren't real familiar with Hafiz, The Gift is a great place to start. It's a beautiful collection of poetry. I've had this book for many, many years, and you can open up to any page and find something lovely and nourishing for your soul. My friend Ali, who is Muslim and a gastroenterologist, came from Pakistan, and he said his father used to teach him answers to his questions about life by reading couplets from Hafiz or from Rumi. And so if he came to his father with a question, his father would answer him with a couplet of poetry, which drove him crazy as a child, but shows how important this poetry is for different communities and how kids grow up with this in their life. If God invited you to a party, if God invited you to a party and said, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, will be my special guest, how would you then treat them when you have arrived? Indeed, indeed. And Hafiz knows that there is no one in this world, there is no one in this world who is not upon his jeweled dance floor. I'll read it one more time. If God invited you to a party and said, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, how would you then treat them when you arrived? Indeed, indeed. And Hafiz knows there is no one in this world who is not upon his jeweled dance floor. This poem is so important to me right now for the interfaith work that I'm doing with so many of my friends, to hold that idea that we're all on this dance floor, and it's complicated and it's heartbreaking right now at some parts of the world, but that doesn't change who we are as people, as part of the great dance of this life. So any lines jump out to you that you want to share that really captured your imagination? And do you agree or disagree?
I love his jeweled dance floor. That's just such an evocative image.
It really is beautiful to think about dancing on jewels, and that's what life is, this joyful dance on jewels. We would walk through the world differently if we remembered that's where we were standing. Rachel.
I think that what I read it yesterday, I looked at all the poems and read it. And when I read it, I was just like, oh, wow, what a call. What a call to just let go of judgment and be accepting. And it's a struggle with some people that just kind of make it a struggle to be accepting. But I know that in my faith, prayer is important, and I feel that I have been able to be accepting of people that are very difficult, just by trying to find their humanness and looking at them as a special guest of God's, because all are his creation, her creation, their creation. Right. So that was just my thought.
Thank you. And thank you for reminding us that this is difficult work, and this is hard work. And if it was easy, we might not need poetry or religion to remind us of it. For me, the people that are especially hard to remember about are the people that refuse this call, right? When someone says, I'm going to refuse this call, those are the people that are especially hard for me to embrace. So then I can embrace them by getting in touch with that part of myself and finding empathy for that part of myself, and then loving them through that empathy. It's a little bit of a dance, isn't it? Thank you, Rachel. Who else?
I can think of a political figure or two that I might not invite to my party. And I'm not sure that the people that I'm thinking about, I'm half kidding here, but not half kidding, would welcome on the dance floor. I kind of think it's fairly easy for progressively minded religious folks to accept people of other faiths. That's kind of easy. But I know that many progressives are extremely judgmental about people with political differences, extremely judgmental. And they're not invited to the dance floor. And so I just want to say, I think the political dimensions can be the toughest. Not the religious, but the political. And what Buddhism has taught lots of people is behind rage and intolerance and even hatred is some kind of pain. And so when you think of an enemy, at least to consider what kind of pain gives rise to that hatred. Once you know the pain, you can't hate them. So that's a little, I think Buddhism is pretty wise there. It's helped me.
Thank you, Jay. I think that's right. I think that's right. We have a few comments. Somebody really liked the particularity and the wideness of everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest. So this wideness, this particularness. And somebody else said, I think when we think of us all as oneness, we know everyone is a special guest and we don't have to be told. So holding oneness as part of our spiritual toolkit. Each of us is a unique manifestation of the divine, a dance partner. And somebody said, I'm not really a party person. It's my introverted nature, a desire for silence more than noise of a party. So I never quite know what to do when I go. I think such an invitation would be scary. That's great, Roger. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll just close my little section by telling y'all a story of when, kind of in relationship to what Jay said, of when I worked at a boarding school with kids from all different religions and all different cultures from all over the world. And some of the very rigid Southern Baptists. Rigidity is not a judgment. It's just kind of a stance. Told me I was going to hell, that I was doing the work of the devil. And so I was praying with Buddhist kids and Muslim kids in their dorms and helping them get ready for rituals. And so I decided this person who was calling me this, I would go and also pray with her, because I thought if I can love my Buddhist kids, I can love my very rigid Southern Baptist friend too. And that changed things, just sitting together in the room. So Jay, I think you're right. It's just hard to want to invite everybody to the dance floor, but it's rich when we do, and it opens our hearts. So. All right. Any final words on this one before we move on to Mary Elizabeth? Okay. Mary Elizabeth, the floor is yours. And you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patricia. I'll try to speak up so you can hear me. I'm in a meeting, and that's why I'm taking my face on and off, and also why I'm staying muted. I'd like to preface this reading with a comment regarding the other 2 poems. I am so struck by both of them. They're full of meaning. And the imagery is so much more powerful than a statement about how we are all together. We all pathways are valid, and those kinds of general theoretical statements. The imagery in these 2 poems is very powerful. And if I could add one other comment. So some of the imagery that really struck me was the pasture for the gazelles and the cloister for the monks. The images don't limit themselves to human metaphors. They're broad and wide-reaching of the whole natural world. But I want to say a personal word, if I might. I'm in the United Methodist General Conference right now, which happens every 4 years. And by the way, Patricia, we voted full communion with the Episcopal Church yesterday.
That is exciting news. Y'all, for those of you who don't know, this is a way of pulling the threads of the Christian church back together a little bit in unity. So
yes. So now it's in the hands of the Episcopal Church to decide. But
I bet we'll say yes.
What I really want to share with you is the most momentous decisions that have been made in our denomination for 50 years. And that is this morning, all of the legislation that is condemnatory or restrictive of LGBTQ persons was taken out. Every bit of it. So that no longer is in our book of discipline. It will no longer be a guide for the church's action. We've had many hundreds of people who've just gone on and been non-discriminatory anyway, but this just removes it completely. And it's just a moment of tears, not a moment of words. But I'm struck by how the two poems touch that moment in a special way, especially the line, Patricia, "There is no one in this world who is not upon his jeweled dance floor." Thank you. My selected poem is moving us in a different direction, and it is focusing on death by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. I think I'm not pronouncing that right, and I apologize. From the 13th century. So we are going back 800 years or so. And he writes, when I die, when my coffin is being taken out, you must never think I am missing this world. Don't shed any tears. Don't lament or feel sorry. I'm not falling into a monster's abyss. When you see my corpse is being carried, don't cry for my leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm arriving at eternal love. When you leave me in the grave, don't say goodbye. Remember, a grave is only a curtain for the paradise behind. You'll only see me descending into a grave. Now watch me rise. How can there be an end when the sun sets or the moon goes down? It looks like the end. It seems like a sunset. But in reality, it is a dawn. When the grave locks you up, that is when your soul is freed. Have you ever seen a seed fall into earth, not rise with a new life? Why should you doubt the rise of a seed named human? Have you ever seen a bucket lowered into a well, coming back empty? Why lament for a soul when it can come back like Joseph from the well? When for the last time you close your mouth, your words and soul will belong to the world of no place, no time. Before we think too much about this poem, I invite you simply to name the images of death that just jumped out at you. You can just shout them out. I'm going to call on people with their hands raised in just a minute, but now I'm just inviting you to shout out images that really spoke to you?
Paradise.
A grave is only a curtain.
Mm.
Human as seed.
Mm.
Julie's hand is up. And Julie, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. It kind of goes back to Jay's question, is that we look at things. There's two ways of looking at things, and that's what comes out in the poem. Is that we look at death, and we look at death in a grave way, and yet it is it's only a passage to the grave is only a curtain to paradise, and it's the same way we look at rootedness, is that it holds us down, and that it whereas rootedness, it could be the fuel to our wings, and if we let go of that concept, and then it comes to the seed in the ground, becomes something new. It's like constant conversion. Conversion isn't once, it's continual.
Sorry, I accidentally muted myself when I was trying to hear. Put this computer close to my ear. Julie, that is beautiful. I wonder if others might join in reflecting on what the poem spoke to you.
I love the steadfastness of reality, that of course, even when you're scared, the seed's hasn't there always been new life? Hasn't there always been water in the well? It just feels like a surety and a hopefulness.
Yeah.
There's a excuse me.
Kathleen, I see your hand, and I think Tina, you have something to say also?
Yes. There's a passage I heard recently from 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 54, that death is swallowed up by love. Of course, there are other translations, death is swallowed up in victory, but I love that death is swallowed up by love. If I have to be swallowed up, I think love would be a good way.
Yes. Kathleen.
Well, I have to say the comment that precedes mine every time I just love. So that's beautiful. One of the things that struck me after reading the other poem, well, actually, it's going back to Jay's poem, is the gazelle is included in what we think of as the human world of faith, right? Brought in. And I love how in this poem, the image of a seed named human, that it's almost like we become part of the vegetal creation as well. We're invited into that. We're part of it. I just thought it was fascinating to see that.
Yes, and one of the things that strikes me in this poem and resonates with process theology is the idea that life continues forever, that it has really no beginning and no end, and that what it is. Now I'm probably over interpreting the poem, but the love within that continuing is what holds it all together. I'm thinking particularly of the line, Just a second, let me find it here. The second stanza ends with, I'm not falling into a monster's abyss. And the next stanza ends with, I'm not leaving, I'm arriving at eternal love. It resonates with the other two poems that we've already heard.
Mary Elizabeth, I have a question. I know you have a lot of experience in being with people in times of grief, and many of us do, I'm sure. How do we hold together the consolation that life continues? And there's something much wider into which everything can be absorbed. How do we hold that together with the honesty of grief and the sense of finality when a person dies? And I have to say, the image that's coming to my mind here is from Gaza. And it's from that little girl that was born of the mother who died, who was pregnant. And the little girl was taken, or I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, actually. I don't know. Who lived for a little bit and then also died, was on the respirator. How do we deal with that pain, that sadness, and at the same time have a sense of consolation in a greater something that awaits each and all, we hope? All right, what do you think?
And I would ask a question back to you, Jay. Can you at times in a poem say the one without saying the other? And at other times say the other without the first?
I think so.
That's an open question.
You mean two different poems or in the same poem?
Yes. Do we might the call not to shed tears and not to lament be taken literally, or might it be taken within the context of the poem, which is trying to assert the ongoingness and the oneness?
Mm-hmm.
And might a poem of lament be whole without necessarily offering any consolation at all?
I think so. I think there's truth in non-consolation and truth in consolation. And we need poems that speak to both sides.
And I would add that one of the pieces is holding these two things together in the tension of the opposites, that we hold the child suffering and we hold the oneness. And somehow they inform each other and we find some truth down the middle.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think there are times when we don't, though. I think there are times when, in long periods, when, and it's okay, when there really is extraordinary darkness and we don't realize that there might be love filling them. We just don't know.
Sherry has her hand up.
Yes. Yes, Patricia.
Cherie has her hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That's
Please.
quite all right. I can't actually find my raise hand icon. I can only see the lower hand one. That's why I'm physically raising my hand. I really love this poem. I haven't actually got it up to reference it at the moment, so it's more the impact of the poem that I'm responding to. And I very much like the discussion, and Jay's point, you know, how do we hold the fact of consolation and also non-consolation when grief is all-consuming, and at those times of deepest grief, it may be that we can't see or feel that there is love always there. But I think I heard somewhere loosely referencing in the Quran that it says at times of great despair, Allah opens a special door. And I think I've experienced that myself when there comes a point where there's no turning away from what is happening. It's at that point that something like a love can enter, and it's definitely a felt response from the heart, a connection to a kind of knowing that comes through, you know, that there's more to the physical realm that than so much more. And I guess for me, what I'm thinking of is just taking this out a bit, that, you know, in a way, it's what we call the supernatural. It's just another word for that extended thing that some people have access to, and is kind of referenced in the Bible too. So I'm not making a particular point, but I guess there's some reflections about that.
Yeah. Rachel, thank you very much for that.
I think just in response to both Sherry and Kathleen and probably some of the other ones that I maybe didn't hear it as clearly, but the you know, those inconsolable griefs, that those times that we can't really quite understand, and there's no rationale at all. You know, these deaths are just horrific, you know, whether it's by war, whether it's by violence. But looking at that last stanza, where it says, when for the last time you close your mouth, your words and soul will belong to the world of no place, no time. And I think that the word belong in there just brings a sense of peace, you know, because I think sometimes the conflicts that we have to do with belonging, and with groups feeling that other people don't have a right maybe to belong, and so these conflicts happen and lives are taken, but that sense that this person still does have a place to belong, and their belongingness will be with everyone else, whether they were on the other side of the conflict or not, because we're all just humans in the end.
That's very helpful. And I'll add, regarding those last lines, that they also are clear about an ending. There's certain things that have ended. The mouth is no longer speaking, and so forth. Let me give a response. It's not an answer, it's just a response. I am very much in tune with people in the chat who are speaking of the importance of tears and lament. And I spend a lot of my energy these days in that spirit, because I'm devastated by what's happening in Gaza and in other parts of the world. And I'm in a state of lament a huge amount of the time. But I also think that 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 response is a very important response to make, and that it, at the same time, one might get caught up in the joy of this poem and the wholeness of death and its relationship to life. My sense is that, and here I turn to process thinking, my sense is that intensity of feeling is very important. And sometimes the intensity needs to be expressed regarding tragedy, the intense fear, anger, hurt. And sometimes it needs to be expressed in terms of joy and possibility and unknown possibilities. And I'm not sure you can be intense about everything all the time. We may need to have spaces for different kinds of intensity of feeling. So I think your discussion has been exceedingly important because you're raising those different kinds of intensity. I will add one other thing, and that this poem does not lend itself to pat answers. It points simply to more mystery. That's another aspect that I find intriguing. I know we need to move on. Thank you so much for this great conversation.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. Kathleen, the floor is yours. And you're muted.
Should we put the poem up? So Many Gifts by Hafiz. There are so many gifts still unopened from your birthday. There are so many handcrafted presents that have been sent to you by God. The beloved does not mind repeating. Everything I have is also yours. Please forgive Hafiz and the friend if we break into a sweet laughter when your heart complains of being thirsty, when ages ago, every cell in your soul capsized forever into this infinite golden sea. Indeed, a lover's pain is like holding one's breath too long in the middle of a vital performance, in the midst of one of creation's favorite songs. Indeed, a lover's pain is this sleeping, when God just rolled over and gave you such a big good morning kiss. There are so many gifts, my dear, still unopened from your birthday. I chose this poem after, this poem is a strange follow-up to the last poem, which, is so sobering. And I stayed up all one night. I couldn't sleep thinking about Gaza. And of course, there's nothing I could do constructive in my sleep about it, which was sort of absurd. So I don't think it's a mystery why I was drawn to this poem. So the question I want to ask is, after reading this, what day do you think your birthday is? When is your birthday?
What a great question, Kathleen. Maybe it's every day.
Did it make you feel a little differently about it? I mean, did you feel like this was a gift for your birthday to be read on your birthday? Julie? Julie, if you want to unmute. I don't know if Julie. Could you unmute, Julie, so we can hear you? Thank you.
Reading the poem after the last one, I think our birthday, we think of our birthday as when we become in life, but our birthday is every day, and I think God gives us new life all the time, even when it's lost. And so the birthday can be when we are beyond the veil, and when we have died.
Mm. Oh, that's quite a thought. That's quite a thought. And this poem is also a reminder, isn't it? It's sort of a reminder of what we've left unopened. Are there any particular places in the poem where you felt like you were being given a gift? Places where the poem spoke to you and you felt like, this is the gift that's speaking to me, or that I needed today, or I'll take with me. That would be something that you loved in it.
I laughed out loud when I heard, indeed, a lover's pain is this sleeping when God just rolled over and gave you such a big good morning kiss.
Hafiz is outrageously wonderful, bold, very bold.
I loved the beloved does not mind repeating. Everything I have is also yours.
Yes, that echoes a lot of what we've read, the jeweled dance floor. Especially I think of that one. I loved every cell in your soul capsized forever into this infinite golden sea. And this poem is very tactile, isn't it? It's very tactile. It's very sensual. You know, it's a very spiritual poem, but Hafiz isn't afraid. This voice reminds us to take delight in all of those things. Does it make you think of any gifts that you haven't opened up yet or you want to open? Maybe that's a question that you have to take with you and think about. And I think the gifts sometimes are things where you have to be open, right? We've talked about the way things flow. You have to be open to receive certain things. So sometimes the gifts are unopened, but maybe that goes back to the self also being unopened, not constricting. Brian.
I'm wondering whether birthday can also be the day of giving birth.
Both ways, giving birth and being born. Beautiful. Beautiful. This would be a wonderful poem to pull out every year, wouldn't it? And it reminds us, even though in the midst of all this pain, there is a lot to celebrate. There still are things to celebrate and receive. There still is pain. Look at, indeed, a lover's pain. There's a lover's pain in this. There is pain in this, but it's not. It's a little. It may also point to pain in life. A lover's pain is like holding one's breath too long. You're out of oxygen then. A lover's pain is sleeping. It's not being awake. This is a call to being awake, kissing life. Yeah, I love the endearment at the end. There are so many gifts, my dear. It's so intimate and tender. I just love it. I love there's almost a sense of, oh dear, oh look, and the humor in, I mean, it's a sex scene in the middle, right? I mean, and it's sort of like, there's no embarrassment, there's no holding back in this, and then the sleeping. I mean, it's very, very tender, familiar. It's a beautiful address. Any other thoughts on it? I hope it speaks to some part of you that can take it in or needs it in some way, you know. Just seeing what we have here. Oh, I love that with Leo. Each of us is one of creation's favorite songs. It's beautiful. Every Day I Am Becoming, from Jennifer. And then Roger, the unopened gift is love. Perfect. That's so perfect for today. It's remaining asleep to that love when God has in every morning tried to awaken us with a kiss. So, you know, I'm thinking we need to be awake to pain. We need to be awake to those kisses. We need to be awake to all of those around us who are different from us. I mean, these poems have been an invitation to a party of grief and love and laughter, I think, today. They really, I'm just so struck by the way they all dance with each other. Yeah. So, anybody want to share? Oh, Sherry. Maybe you need to unmute?
Trying. Oh, got it.
Great.
I was just thinking that although that love awakens our heart, but actually also, not wishing for this to sound cliche, but also sorrow and pain grow our heart, and I think grow the capacity of the heart to feel in all the directions of human experience. And so, you know, we need the opposites.
Yeah.
Hard to say, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we dig down in the grave. We look at the grave and we bury those we love, and we dig down into that grief, and we have the ecstasy of dance and love. You know, there's a huge range of living in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's after 1. I hate to cut a good conversation short, but I just wanted to invite any of the facilitators. Do you want to say one final word, respecting everybody's time? But before we go, any final thoughts?
Well, I want to just say I've been so moved and touched and deeply impressed, and I mean impressed in the way impressing in on the care, attention, generosity, and insight of the reading here. Last week, as we were reading, also in the last couple of weeks, I realized how many people in this group are caring for someone else. A number of you are, and I'm to take the time. I'm glad you took the time out to do this, to get some time and nourishment for yourselves. And it's been wonderful. I've loved it, and I've loved being with the other presenters. It's just been so rich. I'm so grateful to be part of this. Thank you.
I'll add to that I thank you all for the privilege of being able to listen to you. You are so wise and compassionate, and you've helped me to deepen in my own understanding and spirit. Thank you.
Jay, any final word?
Well, I just want to say happy birthday to everybody, because I know that today is your birthday. Isn't it funny that we all have the same birthday, but it's different for each of us? So blessings to everybody. Thanks to everybody very much.
And I see all your
That's no, it's fine. Go ahead.
I see all the thank yous in the comment chats, and we will be sending out the PDF of all the poetry and the YouTube links. The Bethlehem Center will be sending that out this week or next, so be watching for that. So as an Episcopal priest, I always want to dismiss people. Jay, are you sure you didn't have one more thing you wanted to add?
Oh, I'm positive. It's fine. Yeah.
So we dismiss people, go in peace to love and serve. And I will dismiss you with this little tiny poem from Hafiz. And love says, I will take care of you to everything that is near. Y'all take care. Bye.
Amen. And Patricia, you did such a fine job. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Amen.
You held us together.
it was a good team.
Ways.
Good team.
Yes, everything, and the way these poems and everything flowed in on Friday morning, it was like really beautiful. Yeah.
And so I do hope that we continue with the Bethlehem Center. In other words, I want them to know about this, so if they want to support or encourage more of this, they will know that we would like for them to. And like to partner with them. So if anybody has connections with Bethlehem, spread the word, if you will.
Great.
But last thing, happy birthday. Kathleen, I didn't know that you'd become a Zen master, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But your question, when is your birthday?
Yeah.
It was like a Zen koan, Whoa.
Maybe that's because I went birding this morning before all this, and that just put me in a wonderful place. I don't know, of quiet when I came back.
Are you familiar with koans a little bit?
I am.
Well,
I didn't think of it that way though.
There's a famous koan. What did your face look like before you were born?
I love that.
And your question, when is your birthday, was kind of similar in tone for me.
Yeah.
It's to find something that's before you were born, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, I won't say anymore. I'm still working on that koan.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I have a new answer to the sound of one hand clapping. My son is 6'2" and he has these huge hands, and he can do this and make his hand clap. So there are answers to koans.
Oh, wow. We're really making progress, aren't we?
I know, we're enlightened.
This is an enlightened group. Let's just say we're getting close.
There's another one, another Buddhist vow. At the end of meditation, you do a 4-line vow, and one of the lines is, Dharma gates are boundless. I promise to enter them all. And that means that every experience is a gate to truth, as a Dharma gate. And you promise to enter it. Whatever it is, you promise to enter it. And it can be difficult, it can be painful, it can be silly and fun. But every experience is a Dharma gate. I promise to enter them all.
I love it.
And I think that your that's related to the birthday question too, for me.
I just finished a poem, and the title of it is "When the Last Gates Close, Where Will You Go?"
Yeah.
You gonna read it to us?
I'd have to find it. No. I'll send it maybe. Oh, well.
Peace be with everybody.
Peace be with you all too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Right.